Welcome to your 500-word commentary on Habakkuk chapter 1, verses 10 to 12. Verse 10 reads, "At kings they scoff, and at rulers they laugh. They laugh at every fortress, for they pile up earth and take it." Kingdoms take lots of time and resources to create and build and establish. The nations that remain in this area are long-standing, having dealt with some very turbulent times up to this point. But this reborn and powerful Babylonian nation is like nothing that has ever come before. Nothing is sacred to them. Their sheer arrogance and the power of force that they have to back that up will prove that. Nothing will be able to stand in their way. Verse 11 continues, "Then they sweep by like the wind and go on, guilty men whose might is their own God." Another reference here to the searing east wind. God emphasizes Babylon's swift, unstoppable nature, how they sweep in and through, unbroken and unaffected by obstacles. God knows their hearts and the wickedness that lies within them. They only see and believe in their own strength. They think themselves to be their own gods. In verse 12, "Are you not from everlasting, O my God, my Holy One? We shall not die. O Lord, you have ordained them as a judgment, and you, O Rock, have established them for reproof." Habakkuk now takes a turn, continuing to press back against the terrifying imagery that's being painted. The prophet knows the picture that God has framed for Israel through the ages. He grasps on to the promises of that covenant. The covenant, of course, is meant in a way to intertwine the destinies, so to speak, of God and His people. It's an everlasting covenant because eternal God is the sponsor and the superior party of that covenant. All of it hinges on His follow-through with no set termination point and no conditions. He essentially promises to take care of the Israelites forever. Because of this, in faith, Habakkuk can boldly proclaim, "We shall not die." But what about the second half of the verse? Is the prophet saying that God has determined this judgment on His own people to chastise and rebuke them? Or does Habakkuk point out that the very being of this evil people, the Babylonians, seems to have been created for the very purpose of being made an example of? As we've said, they do seem to be the very antithesis of everything that God has claimed to stand for. Maybe it's both. But does God, the creator and orchestrator of all things, use bad as an agent for His will and plan? To quote the Tyndale commentary, that God raises up and uses even nations who do not recognize Him as God. In reality, justice and redemptive correction are established by God Himself, no matter which instruments He chooses to bring them about. In essence, that says, God moves history. God uses history. Not all things are of God, but even those things that aren't of God, God can turn and use as a part of His redemptive history. And just like that, that's your 500-word commentary on Habakkuk chapter 1, verses 10 to 12.